Hello and welcome. So today we're going to be talking about Flexible Macros 101. This is a very basic introduction, and this is a really great jump off point if you've been doing a meal plan and you're looking to get into more flexible dieting, but still sticking within your goals. This is a really great place to start. So I'm going to give you easy, simple method for creating meal plans that fit your macros. My name is Nicole Smith. I'm a nurse practitioner and certified personal trainer, nutrition specialist, and I run Anti-Gravity Wellness. So we've got a little disclaimer here. It's presentation for education purposes only. Each person is different, has different nutritional needs based on many individual factors, and you are advised to work with your primary care provider or other qualified professional in making any dietary changes. If you are one of my clients, that would be me. If you would like to talk with me, I will address that at the end about how you can get a hold of me. All right, so what we're going to be covering, there is a really easy 3-step method that we're going to go over. Calculating your macros, how to distribute your macros throughout your day, and then how to use if it fits your macros, aka IIFYM. So before we even get started, if you take away nothing else from this presentation, I want you to remember protein first. It's super important. The reason why it has the highest satiety of all of the macronutrients, meaning that you feel more full and satisfied when you have protein in a meal than if you don't. Also slows down digestion in a good way. If you've ever seen the glycemic index, there's a lot of controversy around it, but some things kind of hold true. Like if you eat just simple carbohydrates, say like you eat a donut, okay, that's mostly sugar with some saturated fat. That very quickly will spike your insulin levels in the body. Now, the problem with that, like once in a while, the body can handle that. It's not a big deal. But if this is a continuous thing where we're always eating processed foods and we're not eating enough fiber and protein, and that continuous spike, our bodies weren't engineered to handle that. It's only very recently that our diet has changed where it's now highly processed and very refined. We used to have the foods that you see on the screen. They're mostly, maybe not so much the rice, but, whole foods was our diet. And so it was packaged with the water, with the fiber, with the protein, with the fats, and it was a whole food. And that is how our body is used to digesting and handling these things. So having these, quick hitting carbohydrates that we only used to really find in like fruit seasonally, but again, with water and fiber and vitamins and, all that kind of thing. When we have that high spike there, it really causes a lot of problems. So the protein with every single meal really helps to just slow down digestion, keep that insulin from spiking so high, allow the body to break everything down and assimilate it and use that nutrition that you're trying to take in. Protein also preserves muscle mass. As we get older, this becomes really, 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 really important, guys. I can't even emphasize this enough. Muscle is medicine, and especially as we get older, we lose our body mass naturally. We tend to become more water and fat than muscle as we get older. The only way we can prevent that from really going that bad way and becoming detrimental to the point where like you lose your functionality in life. Like you can't, I've fallen and I can't get up. Like that's a real thing, right? You have a hard time even getting around the house. You can't do things by yourself anymore. You end up in a nursing home because you can't take care of yourself. If you don't want to go down this road, one of the things that's really important is to focus on your protein intake in your muscle mass. And especially when you're dieting, we want to actually increase the amount of protein that we're eating because it helps to spare the muscle, and also making sure you're taking in enough carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are muscle sparing as well. That's another topic. All right. And then protein also has the highest thermic effect of all the macronutrients, meaning that when you eat protein, it takes more energy to break it down and assimilate it than fats or carbohydrates or alcohol, which also provides calories, but is more of a poison to the body than an actual nutritional source of anything. All right, so step number 1, we're going to calculate your macros. So you need to figure out your TDEE, which is total daily energy expenditure. Then we need to determine how much protein we need per day. And then we divide up the macros throughout the daily meals. First with protein and then fats and carbs, And for the purposes of this part of your intro to macronutrients, I don't care what ratio you use for fats and macros or fats and carbs, okay? It actually doesn't really matter as much as people like to think. Like, the keto group is going to tell you it should be higher fat. And then there's, the lower carb group. But, really what matters is total energy intake. This right here, TDE, two E's. This is what matters more than anything else when we're talking about weight loss, weight maintenance, or weight gain. And there's lots of factors that go into this number, and it can change day to day. It can change, like for women, it can change throughout the month with their cycle. It can change based on your underlying hormonal condition. If you have like a low thyroid, then your resting metabolic rate is going to be lower. Things like that will definitely affect it. But the fact remains that it is all about energy in versus energy out. That's the most important thing, okay? The second most important thing is getting enough protein. Third is your fat and carb ratio. So we can play around with those later once we get these first two things down pat, okay? Don't be overwhelmed by this first slide here. I know it's a lot of information, but if you like to calculate things out yourself, this is for you. If you don't, zone out for a minute, okay? So calculate your basal metabolic rate. There's a formula for men. Here's a formula for women. You guys will have this. And then determine your activity level. Most people I set to sedentary or maybe lightly active. And this is because we're trying to, most people are trying to lose weight that come to me. Moderately active, we're talking like you are strength training and you are doing cardio, like really good, like running several days a week, okay? There's not very many people who fall into this range. Very active and extra active, we're talking athletes, okay? Most people don't fall into that range. So most people are going to start out lightly active or even sedentary. If you're not working out at all, you are sedentary. If your steps are less than 4,000 a day, you are sedentary, even if you are working out, okay? Lightly active, your steps are above 4,000 a day, and you're exercising a few days a week. Okay. And we want to make sure that you set yourself up for success at the get-go, because if you miscalculate this in the beginning, you're probably going to be a little bit off because everybody's body is a little bit different. This is only a place to start. But if you're wildly off, you're going to gain weight. At worst, at best, you'll just maintain your weight and you'll just have to make an adjustment. That's fine. All right. So to calculate the TDEE, we get the BMR, which is up here, and then we times it by the activity level. If you don't want to do that and you want something way easier, use the NASM calculator. So you just go to NASM calorie calculator. Just do a Google search or wherever you search for things, and it brings up a super simple calculator. It uses the St. George method, which is very well validated in studies to be pretty freaking accurate, especially when it comes to overweight people, which are mostly what we're finding in America. So super easy. That's what I use. All right. So how much protein per day? Well, let's just make it super simple, guys. I don't want to complicate things. Just use 1 gram per pound of ideal body weight. And ideal body weight, we're going to say, is the body weight that you're aiming for. Okay, so let's say, for sake of just ease, that your ideal body weight is 150 pounds. Then you're going to eat 150 grams of protein per day, plus or minus 5 to 10. Okay, super easy. Let's not complicate things. I don't want to get into the body, we can get granular as far as arguing over if it's, 0.7, 0.8, 1.2. For the sake of simplicity, 1 pound per pound of ideal body weight. Easy. Okay, moving on. So we want to do a sample breakdown for a 2,000 calorie diet. So reminder, calories per 1 gram. Protein has 4 calories per gram. Carbohydrates also have 4 calories per gram, and fat has 9 calories per gram. We're not talking about alcohol in this instance, but that does have 7 calories per gram, by the way. And typically we pull that from the carbohydrate group if we're going to sub that in anywhere. So, all right, so let's say protein, we know we want 150 grams times 4 calories. That's equal to 600 calories divided by 2,000 calories. That's 0.3 or 30% of our daily calories are coming from protein. So let's just reverse engineer that. Most of the time, it's just easy to do like 40, 30, 30. And you can divvy that up however you like. Typically, 40%, when we're talking about like a weight loss, I go higher on the protein. So I'll say 40% of your daily calories from protein, 30% of your daily calories from carbs, 30% from fat. For the purposes of this example, this is more of like a maintenance. So we have 40%, 0.4 of our calories coming from carbohydrates, which is equal to 800 calories. Divide that by 4, then we get 200 grams of carbohydrates per day. Fat is then the remainder 30%, 600 calories, 9 calories for each gram. Divide that and you get about 66.6 grams of fat per day. Okay, and then let's just double check our math. 150 grams of protein, 600 calories plus 200 grams of carbs, which is 800 calories plus 66.6 grams of fat. 600 calories equals 2,000 calories. All right, so always double check your math. Okay, but we want to make this easy, right? So you can calculate that all out and get granular with it. Or with my clients, I use Stronger Faster, this app here, and we can then select our meals and it will pop out our average daily macros right here. So you can see our goal is 157. We're falling a little bit short of that, but that's okay because we can be within 5 to 10 grams of our protein and our carbs. We want to be closer on the fats, no more than 3 to 5 grams off because they are more calorie dense. But notice how you're flexible. You're flexible with your fats and you're flexible with your carbs. And again, I don't care. This ratio, like it says it's 45% fat. It could be 45% carbs and 32% fat. That's fine. It doesn't matter. What matters most is making sure we're hitting that minimum protein goal. Okay. And then again, staying under this calorie goal and also meeting that calorie goal. We don't want to undereat because that sends the signal to your body that it's under stress. And while you might lose some weight at first, you're going to plateau very quickly because the body is very adaptive. Okay. So don't be too aggressive in the beginning or else you're going to plateau a lot sooner. All right, next we evenly distribute the grams of proteins, carbs, and fats throughout the day. So we want to divide it up evenly for all meals. So one of the ways that I like to do this is say, we got 3 meals plus two snacks, and I would equate one snack to about half a meal. So then we have 4 meals total, basically, 3 meals plus 2 snacks, but actually 1 meal, or 8 equal parts. However you want to divide it up, whatever makes sense to you. It doesn't really matter. There's no right way to do that. So there's all of the calculations. So it ends up being about 37.5 grams of protein per meal and 18.7 grams per snack. And again, we can round up or down on these. 50 grams per meal for carbs, 25 per snack, 16.6 for fats, 8 or so grams per snack. Yes, you can move these around. You can, maybe you have one snack that's a little bit heavier on the fat because you had some nuts with that one, make the other one a little bit lighter. Like you can borrow it, the whole daily total is what really matters. But one of the reasons why I like to do this is so that you don't end up with especially with the protein, because it's a lot of protein, right? Don't end up at the end of the day, you're out of carbs, you're out of fats, and all you have left are protein, and you need 50 grams and you end up just eating egg whites for dinner. Ask me how I know, okay? Don't do that. So definitely divide up your protein throughout the day. And this is beneficial too because the body only has a very actually small pool of amino acids, which is the smaller components of proteins that the body breaks it down into. Amino acids that we use to make proteins in the body. We don't really have a huge store of that. We have decent store of fat, a lot of us a little more than others. We store glucose, carbohydrates in muscle cells and skeletal muscle cells and in the liver, but we don't really have a good storage for amino acids aside from in the actual muscle fibers and cells themselves. So when we go what's called catabolic and we're actually breaking those things down, that is not necessarily what we want to do. There's a certain amount of cleansing that goes on in the body. They call that autophagy. I'm sure you've heard that term out there. It's quite the buzzword right now, especially when it comes to intermittent fasting. But that's a natural process the body does. And by the way, it does it when you're in a calorie deficit too. So that's all that intermittent fasting really does. It just puts you in a calorie deficit. Some people, it just works better for them. And that's totally fine. Do it if that works. But it's not for everybody. So don't let people talk you into that if it's not for you. Okay, so distributing your macros the easy way with Stronger Faster. Again, I have my clients set up with this app here. Unless they're on a meal plan, then they don't have to worry about it at all because I'm taking care of all of that for them. But this app is great because it will just pop you out all of this stuff here, and it will help you to distribute your macros. And let's say that you're like, I wasn't going to eat this meal. I'm going to eat off plan. Well, you can do that. And there's a way to do that within the app. And then it shows you what your goals are for that meal so that you're like, oh, I need 55 grams of protein. I need 17 grams of fat. I need 43 grams of carbs. And I need at least 5 grams of fiber for this meal to keep me on track. Super easy. And then within that app, you can log anything. You can log, individual items. You can put in your own recipes, just like you could within like Chronometer or MyFitnessPal, which a lot of people are familiar with using. So very similar interface there. All right, so let's talk about if it fits your macros. So #IIFYM, super fun buzzword, right? Basically what this means is eat whatever you want, so long as it fits your macros, it meets your total daily calorie goals. That's simple. You want pizza? Eat pizza. You want burgers? Eat burgers. You want a beer? Have a beer. You want a donut? Have a donut. But it has to fit your macros, okay? And you will learn very quickly that if you fill up your diet with, junk food, basically, that even if yes, if you are still in a calorie deficit, you'll still lose weight, but you will be more hungry. Your energy won't be as good. Your physique also will not look as good. And that's just something that bodybuilders know from experience too, is, if you're dieting on garbage, your body doesn't, it kind of reflects it. Okay. So the higher quality, like the more nutritionally dense as far as like the fiber, water, all of the nutrition that's in there, vitamins, minerals, phytonutrients that are within the food that you're eating. And we're talking about whole foods here, right? Because that's where we're going to find these things, as opposed to a processed food that has all of these things stripped away. You're just going to feel better, and you're also going to look better because you're giving your body the nutrition that it needs. But this is a really great approach to use. And I wouldn't advise doing it right off the get-go unless you actually have really good willpower. Most people, this is a slippery slope, and it can actually go downhill for them. I recommend at least the first 3 months of being more strict and not having this flexible eating pattern, but doing more of like just sticking to the plan and doing your meal plan. Because we're trying to break habits that have been instilled for years, and it's not going to be broken in 3 weeks, guys. Like, it's going to take longer. And if you make a habit of slipping back into old habits and still eating the foods that got you in that mess to begin with, that becomes your new habit. And it's very easy to slip back and then end up overeating those foods. Those foods are made to be overeaten. They are made for you to crave them. They are genetically engineered in a lab to do that because they're trying to make money. That's nothing. They're a corporation. They're trying to make money. Okay, whatever. They've hijacked that system, and you just need to be aware of these things and take control of that system back. And once you've been on a cleaner diet, you just don't crave those things like you used to. And honestly, going back to those things after you've been eating, quote, clean for a while, or eating more whole foods and less of the processed junk food, when you do go back to eat those things, you're going to really feel like, oh, wow, I used to eat like that, and I feel like awful afterwards. Yeah. And you used to feel that way all the time. So, but you can still have room for some things. Like, I enjoy like some coconut ice cream, because dairy is something that I try to avoid because I have an intolerance to it. It tends to make my skin break out and I don't feel as well. I've noticed that. And I've also done testing as well and confirmed that as well. But when you don't need to do testing, we can just do an elimination diet and figure out pretty well what you do and do not tolerate. But so I have, every once in a while have, some coconut ice cream. I might have a beer every now and again, but it's not something that I do on a regular basis. But I've reached that point in my life where I can handle that without going overboard, right? So tips for if it fits your macros: you want to eat your protein first. Always eat your protein first. This is really going to help you to fill up with what you need and know that you're at least meeting your protein goal. Then after that, you can fill the rest of the meal in with whatever you want. Literally whatever you want. It's fine. We want to maintain a minimum of 25 grams of fiber per day for women and 30 grams of fiber for men. This is so you have like regular bowel movements, a healthy gut microbiome, and will also inadvertently get you to eat more whole foods, because that's where you're going to find the best sources of fiber is in whole foods. They're very important for your gut health. They've also linked it to positive effects on your cardiovascular health and your lipid profile, like your triglycerides, LDL, HDL, all that good stuff, cholesterol. Okay. All right. So here we go. We covered how do you calculate your macros. Make sure we have protein first, distributing your macros evenly throughout the day. And then we talked about if it fits your macros. IFYM. Woo, you did it. That's it. All right. Super easy, guys. Just protein, fill in the rest. Make sure you hit your protein goal. Make sure you don't go over your calorie goal. Who cares what you do with your fats and carbs in between? Honestly, I don't care when you eat during the day. If you want to do intermittent fasting, do intermittent fasting. If you want to eat at 10 o'clock at night, eat at 10 o'clock at night. It doesn't matter. What really matters is those two things. And then, of course, fiber. But, okay, so 3 things. So your total daily energy intake, your protein, and your fiber, okay? And then making sure you drink enough water. I could keep going, but like you've got the main points down, right? So if you just get these things down, you are going to be ahead of 99% of the population out there. And you will be able to create something that is sustainable for you, that you can get to your ideal weight range, because it's never going to be like a set one, like you're not going to be within 1 to 2 pounds. Guys, you're going to float, okay? And that's normal. It is totally normal to be up and down 5 pounds or so, depending on, what you ate, how well you slept, what your stress level is, what your sodium intake was, what your water intake was, and especially for women, what time of the month it is. So 5 pounds change in one day, normal. Stop getting on the scale all day, okay? Drive me crazy. It's good to monitor your weight because it is a measurement, but it's not the only thing we look at, and it's normal for it to fluctuate, okay? But these things will really help you to create sustainable lifestyle habits. So thank you so much. I really appreciate your time and attention. If you are not a client and you are interested in working with me, go to antigravitywellness.com. You can schedule your consult right there. You can also stalk me in there. I got all of my social media handles in there. I have a blog. We have testimonials. I got a big extensive list of all of the services that I do. It just keeps growing, guys. So I have a location now in Kennewick, Washington, where I'm seeing clients in person just 1 day a week right now, but still doing mostly virtual telemedicine and asynchronous check-ins with clients every week. So I combine nurse practitioner with a coach. With like a nutrition and fitness coach. So I don't know of anyone else out there who's doing anything like this, but I found great success with it. I really love it. I really love working with my clients and seeing them transform their lives. If you want to be a part of that, or even if you just want to, like I said, just stalk me, go to my website, get signed up for our email list, and I will be talking with you later. Thanks, guys.